Have you ever seen those TikTok videos where they have the aim of motivating people and they basically say that if you want to make true progress in the gym and gain muscle, don't start counting the reps until it gets sore. If you're doing a set of push-ups, you keep doing them until your muscles start burning, and that's when you start counting, right? I recently was thinking that definitely applies to self-improvement. In fact, it applies more to self-improvement than it does in that context. I recently started my postgraduate year in accounting. I'm studying accounting, for those of you that don't know. I'm doing my 4th year, my postgraduate, and it is notoriously the most difficult year. They call it the year where you basically earn your chartered accounting title. And I was aware of this. I think we're all aware of this. It was beaten into us last year. They kept telling us next year is going to be really, really difficult. And I was like, okay, cool. I started 2 weeks ago. I remember I just started. I was like, okay, screw it. Let me start. The first day we had like four tests based on last year's work in the same day. So we were writing from like 8 until 4 p.m. And so I just was like, okay, screw it. Let me go hard, right? Let me start doing. I really need to start getting into the groove of it. Otherwise, I'm never going to get out of this year, right? So I had a decent week the first week, right? Then last week was my second week. I just started to fade a bit, right? Like I was struggling. I got home. I was just tired. I couldn't do any work, right? And just to put it into context, the amount of work we're supposed to be doing, we have 4 hours Monday to Thursday, one for each module basically. And they said, apart from the lectures you're doing, you need to be studying 20 hours a week, just outside of lectures. Now, to put that into context, that's about, I think the idea is to get 4 hours after school, 4 hours of studying after school every single day, or 5 or 6 days of the week, basically. That's the level of work we're supposed to be doing. So I got home and I was tired. I just couldn't do it. I was like, crap, okay? And I remember telling myself, I was like, okay, look, this is the point when I was like kind of down and out, like I was over the last like couple of months, I've been struggling, and I've been thinking if I can just get back to the point where I'm like struggling and I'm like, I just know I need to push through that. Because I remember last year at the end of Jan, I had a similar problem. Well, it wasn't a similar problem. I was just burnt out because I wasn't getting enough sleep. I was doing ridiculous amounts of physical activity, and I was just tired and I burnt out. And I remember I just stopped at the end of Jan. I just stopped. I fell off the wagon and I was never the same. I regretted that all year. I have never been the same since then. My drive has been gone. I feel like I've been burnt out forever. But I remember watching a Jose Zuniga podcast. He was on, I think, the Roommates podcast, and he was talking about, Hafiz asked him, don't you ever get tired? Or something along those lines. And he was like, bro, I'm tired all the time. I just keep pushing. And I remember I was just like, oh man, I wish I hadn't stopped in Jan. I wish I just kept pushing. Now, it was obviously good that I burnt out because I definitely wasn't getting enough sleep and I was burning myself out. But if I just like pivoted, giving myself a bit more sleep, but I hadn't quit, basically, I really regretted that when I heard it in that moment. And I was like, okay, you've been wishing, ever since then, you've been wishing to get back into this position, right? We're back in this year, second week of my postgraduate where I'm struggling. I was like, okay, you've been wishing to get to this point, and then you just make yourself push through, because why? That is where the real progress is made. That is where true self-improvement progress is made. It's not made in the first couple of weeks when you're pumped up, right? You've got all this. You got like, you know, when you get newbie gains in the gym where you're like excited and everything's just going your way. You have the same thing with self-improvement. You're in the honeymoon period. But the moment it starts getting difficult, that's where the real progress is made, because that's when all the poses are filtered out. That's when everything is filtered out, and that's when you really start getting into the grind and it starts building, when you start making progress. And I was like, okay, this is the point where I'm going to start making progress. So I've been trying to bounce back since then. I'm at the end of my second week now. I'm still behind on my work, but I'm trying to get back into it. And that's just the point I'm trying to make in this video, is that moment when it gets hard, it's very easy to quit, but just remind yourself, this is the point where your real momentum is built. This is the point where you start building that muscle. Going back to the quote we were talking about at the start, those TikToks where they were saying, you start counting the reps when your muscles are sore. That's when you start making the real progress. That's how you make rapid progress. Your muscles are forced to adapt. It's the same thing with self-improvement. Okay, and don't ever forget that. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. Missed on my outro. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button down below, and until next time, we'll see you boys.